1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Why is that today?
Everyone, this is Dave Powell of Kennebunkport TV. Just want to let you know that the board is in an executive session. They should be out of that and in here shortly.
How did you not hear that over here? Were you?
I do have the HDMI plugged in. I don't know if anybody heard me.
The audio is plugged in?
Yeah, I plugged it all back in.
I didn't even hear you up. Well, I
You
never
won't
hear
hear
you
me.
there. But I would.
So I can't tell the
No, when I
difference
usually
tonight.
don't hear you on that either.
Did you have the volume turned down?
I turned it up.
Okay.
Mic check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Testing.
Did you have that muted when I was talking?
I did not. I did, no, I had it unmuted.
Okay.
But I never hear yours anyway when you're standing up.
Right. Okay, if I could edit this. Oh, it's a PNG file?
Yeah, can't edit that. Well, I can quickly.
Yeah, I'll just do Notepad.
I can have an executive session when I can drag over if you want me to do that.
Sure, you mean display there, but they won't see it in the Zoom meeting.
No, but I can go back to like this. I can just go back to my screen. Come on.
But they won't see that in Zoom, right?
They will not see in Zoom.
Okay.
All right, so we'll cancel that then. Yes.
Hello, Ed. We are on the air. We will wait for others to join us, but I allowed attendees to join at 6 o'clock. You're muted.
Yeah, I believe they're still in executive session.
Okay.
I don't have to go to these executive sessions because I have a personal or supposed conflict with the issues, so I get out of them.
So while Zoom meetings, attendees can see and hear us, we're not broadcasting on TV yet.
Okay.
No, actually,
Or are we? We are we are broadcasting on TV. So,
Okay.
And the public knows that we're
right,
recording.
okay. So we'll hold till the others join us.
What's that?
Michelle's here.
Oh, I got a text from Lori. What's it say here? We're still meeting. Be there soon.
It was your shirt that I was seeing. I was like, is that some giant decorated box she's holding or something? I can only see through
Yes,
the
I
reflection
wrapped it. So here,
there. So that's for both of us?
I think so.
We'll have to go steal a plate.
I forgot to grab the plates. Sorry, I
Sorry.
intended to. Here's your mayonnaise.
Thank you.
Here's tartar sauce.
Ooh, I like tartar sauce. I didn't think we had any, so that's why I asked for mayonnaise.
Yeah, and here's ketchup.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Oh, executive session, how fun. Mhm. Some idiot just, I was in the crosswalk and I heard his brakes as he's trying to stop the open crosswalk and the window's wide open. And I said to her, I said to him, elderly guy, probably about Bill's age, and I said, thanks anyway, too late. So, enjoy.
Thank you.
Do you have utensils?
I do not. Oh, yeah, we do. Sorry. She forgot plates, but she has utensils and
There you go. Please close that up.
condiments. And a cute little freezer bag or refrigerator bag.
I hate this. I had Hilton honor points, and since I haven't traveled or done anything for almost a year and a half because of, you know, things, they're
Right.
gonna delete all the points. And I'm like, that's not fair.
I think you should write to them and complain.
I would use them, but I can't.
You have a choice, Hilton. You can restore my points, or I will seriously reconsider who I will be staying with after the pandemic. And Hilton will not be on that list.
I had like almost 5,000 points.
Jeez. You want tartar sauce?
Oh, I like tartar sauce.
There they are.
All right, I don't see that.
Yeah, a third of the gang's here.
Is Mike Weston on the other side?
Okay.
Is he in the cheap shirts?
So Mike, Dave, can you keep an eye out for Mike and attendees? He usually ends up over there.
Yep. I think I figured out why.
Why?
I always had his email address as Weston, but it's Westcon.
Yes.
But you're usually the one that sets up these meetings, so I'm gonna blame you this time.
You won't be the first.
Forgive me, Lori, I'm in a mood this week. It has been a seriously bad week on the day job.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm just a little bit frosty. What happened here?
Well, you're in your happy place now with us.
That's right.
Da, 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 da. I don't see Mike.
I don't see Mike in the cheap seats, as Mike Davis says.
Where's Sheila?
It was not going to be here this evening.
Okay. Wow, we can hear you from over there.
Is he in the camera by chance? Or?
Nope, because they're five, that includes me. Mike, Don, Everett. So I'm gonna be promoting, no doubt, Warner, Mike Collins, probably John Everett. Probably Arsenio too. Oh, here you go. I didn't even link the silver one.
So we haven't seen Mike yet?
Yeah.
Nope. Nope.
I just heard a ding. Is that anything?
Makes a ding for us when I mute and unmute myself. I didn't know anybody else could hear that. Or it was a different ding, I don't know. Michael, you want ketchup?
No, I just like tartar sauce.
Okay. How about for the fries?
Can you mute me, Dave, for a minute? Are you?
I muted you, Lori.
Mike's in the audience.
Okay, I see him now. I'll promote him.
Do you need more tartar?
So Lori, can you hear me? No.
I have
You're
She's
still muted.
muted, but she can hear you. Hey, Mike.
Yes, I
I
can
had-
hear you.
It
So-
wouldn't take my password.
So,
I tell you, I don't know, me and Zoom. It's an electrical thing, I think.
I don't have to take a roll call because we've already been inside. We've already opened up the meeting, right? Correct?
Yeah, but I would do it in public session.
Okay, all right.
So we're good if Dave and Mike are good.
Sure.
We're good, we're on the air.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're just now coming out of executive session. I'm going to open the public meeting and I'm going to take a roll call. There was no, by the way, there was no action taken. Sheila is not here this evening. Pat,
Here.
Ed,
Here.
Mike,
Here.
and Alan is here. Good evening, everyone. This is a virtual Board of Selectmen meeting. We are using the Zoom conferencing format. The webinar ID is 995-1656-3640. If you wish to make a public comment and speak on an agenda item, please use the raise your hand feature on your device. The moderator will be notified and will unmute you. Please identify yourself before you make a comment. Item 3, approve the October 8th, 2020 Selectmen's meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have a first and a second. I'll take a roll call. Pat,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan says aye. Motion carries. Item 4, this is an opportunity for anyone who wants to address the Board of Selectmen with an issue that is not on the agenda. You see any hands raised?
There are no hands raised.
No hands raised. Okay. Item 5, public hearing by the Board of Selectmen and Planning Board to take public comments on November 3rd, 2020 special town meeting referendum ballot. So, do we,
Shall I promote planning board members?
yes,
Okay, I see Nina. And who else? Ed?
That's the only one I recognize. Who's the one in the D? I can't remember. Oh, Dan. Dan was.
I see a Dan, but I don't know if that's Dan Saunders.
We need Charles Simmons needs to be promoted.
All right.
So we're missing Ed.
It is here.
Yep, Ed's here.
Oh. I'm just missing him, I guess. Oh, there he is. I didn't recognize Ed in his new haircut, so.
It's my
Yeah.
COVID classic haircut.
Nina is still muted.
So at this point, we would need the planning board to also call their meeting to order and open the public hearing for them.
Nina, perhaps you'd do that?
Yeah, do you want a planning board member to do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. This is a meeting of the planning board called to order. I'd like to take attendance. I'm here. Ed,
Here?
okay. Charles,
Here.
okay. So we have 3 members, which is a quorum, all set to go.
Okay. So I'm going to read A, B, and C, and I think Werner and Tracy may have some things to say, correct? Maybe? Okay, amendment to the land use ordinance regarding tents, acceptance of the codification of the town ordinances, and adoption of the emergency management ordinance. Do you want to just kind of briefly tell everybody what these are?
I can,
Tent?
I can speak to the tent, to the proposed changes to the tent regs. You know, as you all know, within the land use ordinance, there are regulations regarding the temporary placement of tents. This particular warrant article amendment would change the time limits for which those tents may be in place. The time frame is being expanded to between Memorial Day until Labor Day. So in other words, commercial properties could have tents on their properties during that time frame without any time limits imposed. And then outside of those time frames, so in other words, before Memorial Day and after Labor Day, there would be a limit of 30 days per any calendar year for those time frames. It's a change from the current ordinance, which currently allows for 30 days per calendar year.
Okay. This is a open public hearing, so is there any public comment on this amendment? Do you see any hands? Dave? There are no hands. Okay. Well, thank you, Werner, on that. On B, acceptance of the codification of the town ordinances.
That's me. So this is the codification project that we have been working on for about 2 years. And it's codifying all of the town's ordinances, and we used general code. And they basically reworked them for us to put that in a more friendly format. And it will also be available on our website as reference for staff as well as the residents. And basically it just puts all of our ordinances into one document called a code. And there have been drafts submitted throughout the process. And we're now in the final stages, and we just need the voter approval, and then it will be finished.
Well, thank you very much. Is there any hands or any questions from the public?
Still no hands from the attendees.
Okay, thank you. C, adoption of emergency management ordinance. Is that something you want to talk about, Lori?
Sure. So one thing is we currently do not have an emergency management ordinance. And there were a few communities like us in the state of Maine that we learned a lot through the pandemic about the importance of having that authority and ability. And so this emergency management ordinance is very, I would say, basic and rudimentary in nature, but does allow the selectmen to take some actions that may be necessary for public safety.
Do you see any hands in the public?
Nope.
Raised?
No hands from the public.
No hands from the public. Okay, well, I'm going to close the public hearing, and there will be no action. There's no action required. Thank you. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Planning Board. Would you like to go ahead and close your Planning Board meeting? Nina?
Muted.
I take a motion to close the planning board meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ed? And myself. Okay.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Night.
You too.
Good night. Item 6.
So
Go ahead.
Dave, we're gonna leave Werner up for a minute and bring Mike Claus up
Okay.
for the next item.
Okay, item 6, public hearing regarding the determination of abandonment of a portion of the former location of State Aid Highway Number 1, also known as the old Route 9.
So, so did you open the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was busy getting my paperwork out. So everyone is familiar with Route 9 in town, and the portion of it along School Street I'm sorry, the portion along Main Street that fronts the old ice rink parcel is where we have this particular abandonment. And in your packets, there is a survey of the property, and I provided you with a color version that shows that the old Route 9 used to indent into the ice rink parcel. In the 1930s, I think it was in 1933, the state of Maine purchased land across the street from Mary and Frank Seavey in order to move the road and straighten Route 9 in that portion, which they in fact did. The issue is now the ice rink parcel's boundaries are still being impacted by that old Route 9. So we have been working with the Department of Transportation to understand whether they have any rights left there. And what they have told us through their attorney is that when they moved the highway designation to the new location back in the 30s, that relinquished their rights to that other piece of property. It was recommended by the DOT that the town also abandon and relinquish their rights. I did work with our town attorney and Ralph Austin, who is representing the Housing Trust. And part of the abandonment process is that the town recognizes when it was originally established as a townway and when we stopped maintaining it. Well, the town never adopted Route 9 or Main Street as a townway. And so the attorneys have identified that in the order, and the reality is that portion of Route 9, the old portion, we have not maintained. We certainly do maintain for winter maintenance the portion that is there today. So this is seen as kind of a belts and suspenders order, meaning that it's probably over and above, but it would be something that we would register with the York County Registry of Deeds in order to clarify the boundary line for the parcel. So as part of this process, we need to accept any public comment on the maintenance of that portion of Route 9. And Mike Claus is here as well as Public Works Director to verify whether we have maintained that portion or not over the last 30 years.
Okay, do you see any hands raised in the audience?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, Mike, is there anything that you, Mike, you're muted. Is there anything that you'd like to add, Mike?
If you want, for the record on the public hearing, Public Works has not maintained any of that section of Old Route 9 as long as I've been here, and in any of my records, in any of my crew's records.
Okay, thank you. It's still no hands raised?
I do have a question, Alan.
Okay.
I've looked at this several times, and as you know, I live right next to this, so I'm very familiar with this. And we used to play on the old road when I was a kid. It was still, passable. But is this on the south side of Route 9, or is it on the skating rink side of Route 9? Because I can't quite see what the delineation of the current road bed is.
Well, the road is still there. It's on the skating rink side, I believe. It's not on the other side of the road.
Because when you
Right.
look at the survey,
If you look at the proposed relocation by DOT with the colored document, you can see that the old section of Route 9 that goes into the ice rink parcel, that entire area, the pink and the blue is where the current Route 9 is. That's the land that the state purchased.
okay, so that is not the abandonment part.
No.
All right. That clears it up for me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's just showing what property they purchased to move the road onto.
Okay.
So are there still no hands?
Still no hands.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing. We're gonna take a vote on this. Could I have, hopefully we're gonna take a vote on it. Can I have a motion?
I move to abandon said property.
Second.
I have a first and a second, and we'll take a roll call. Pat,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan says aye, motion carries. Thanks, Mike. Okay, 7, approve the purchase of turnout gear for the fire department.
So we're gonna say goodbye to Werner, and then we are gonna keep Mike Claus. But okay, what if he, that's all right, we'll bring him back. We need Jay for right now.
I shouldn't have.
Thanks, Warner.
It's like a dance.
It is.
I'm not a good dancer, apparently. So bring Mike back.
Well, that's all right, just bring Jay for now.
John Effort is the clerk at the bottom.
Alrighty, he should be coming in.
There he is.
Now, Alan sees him before I
And then we lost Warner.
There he is. Hi, John.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. So this is just what we normally buy on a kind of a annual rotating basis of replacing turnout gear. What I'm able to do is use surplus that I've had over the years where maybe I didn't need, you know, as many sets. But this is just a normal, we get about 10 years out of a set of gear. And it's a normal, for the 7 sets I'm looking for, it's a normal rotation.
Very expensive,
It is.
but
It
very
is.
necessary.
Yeah, and I did get a letter today in the email from the manufacturing company that, you know, Bergeron Associates that we're buying it through is the only distributor for them in the state of Maine. And we've been buying gear, they've been buying this gear since before I became the chief.
So are we gonna be doing this expenditure to Globe Manufacturing or Bergeron?
Bergeron is the dealer for Globe Manufacturing.
Okay,
Yeah, we have to go through Bergeron, but it's Globe Manufacturing gear.
okay. All right. Any questions from the board?
Nope, I think we've been through this every year since I've been on this board. So I would make a motion that the town expend $18,409 to Bergeron Associates for new turnout gear.
Second.
I have a first and a second. I'm gonna take a roll call. Pat,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan says aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
guys
There
are
he
crazy
is. I
enough
thought
to
you
run in
disappeared.
buildings, Jay. You should have the best gear going.
And we do buy a very good set, yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Item 8, sign an affidavit for correcting a sewer commitment record under oath.
So in your packet is an affidavit. When we signed the sewer commitment earlier this year, the date said 2019 instead of 2020. And so this affidavit will just correct the record.
We need a correction to the correction because it's incorrect. Look at my name. It says I'm the third.
There's three of you?
All right, we'll.
There
we'll
actually
print you
are,
an-
but Edward W. We won't even go. We don't need another 4-hour meeting talking about my history in the town.
I don't see that.
On mine, it does. Well, there's a where we're. I assume this is a copy of the
signature.
copy we're supposed to sign.
Yeah,
Oh.
no, mine says the 3rd as well, Ed.
Okay.
Mine does too.
I just noticed that.
No, I'm going by something different. So.
Do we need to
We
vote
do.
on that, Lori, to sign it, or we
Yes.
just come in and sign it?
Yeah,
Take a
it would
vote.
be good if you could vote on it.
So moved.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Okay, Pat,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan says aye, motion carries. Item 9, authorize sale of a 2006 Ford Ranger. Mike, you want to talk about that? Just for curiosity, if everybody might want to know why it sold so cheap.
That is that is our old mechanic's truck.
The red one?
It's the small red Ranger, which we've had 2006. Chris, I think. It's 2006. The problem with that was was just rust got to it. The frame had numerous holes in it. And it was not going to pass inspection without, basically redoing the body. So it just doesn't have that kind of value. So it basically has scrap value, except for somebody who wants to either try to rehab it or use it as a camp vehicle where it's not on public roads. And so that's why we put it out for bid. Our minimum was based on a scrap price, which actually has been going down lately. So it's a little bit less than, we think for scrap, we would have gotten a little less than $200 right now. So we're
I think
happy.
you did pretty well.
Yeah, well, it's a 14-year-old vehicle too. So, yeah, I get it. How about a motion?
I move that we sell the 2006 Ford Ranger for the sum of $507.25 to Terry Merrill.
I have a first, can I have a second?
A second.
First and second, I'm gonna take a roll call. Pat,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Aye.
Alan says aye, motion carries. Thanks, Mike. Okay, 10, review wastewater strategic plan. Chris, there's Chris.
So at your last meeting, we reviewed the fiscal sustainability plan and talked to you about how aggressive or assertive you wanted to be in terms of replacing infrastructure. We discussed financing and what projects might work well together and what you see are the priorities. So what Chris has prepared is a proposal for the first 5-year period. So we thought we would get some feedback from you tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris and bring up the PowerPoint.
Good evening, everyone. Can everybody hear me okay?
Hi, Chris.
So what I brought tonight was basically, a project summary for the next 5 years. What it amounts to is at this time, and this is a guesstimate, would be about $5 million. And depending on how this was financed, the breakdown could be a little bit different. But what we're kind of proposing is $300,000 in reserve funds and $4.7 million in bond funds. Okay, the next slide, please, Lori. So we tried to take into account a lot of different variables that would affect this. Obviously, with the current construction environment, there's a lot of considerations that we had to make in trying to put this together. And it's difficult to entirely and accurately predict all the impacts that these variables are going to have, both on construction timelines and on cost. But this is what we arrived at. Can I have the next slide, please? So just a few general considerations that kind of go along with this. The numbers that were present in the fiscal sustainability plan were likely on the low side because when the fiscal sustainability plan was completed, they considered in-kind equipment replacement costs only. And the prices were estimated at the time that the fiscal sustainability plan was completed back in 2018. So they don't take into account inflation since their estimation and future inflation time of expected construction in 2021 to 2022 or beyond that. They do not consider the increased cost of equipment and construction work because of the pandemic. Once we have a better understanding of some of the design decisions that we're going to have to make and considerations that go along with those designs, Wright Pierce can probably provide us with some more accurate cost numbers on that. Can I have the next screen, please? So in breaking this down, in speaking with Corey Lewis, who is our current engineer for the current bond projects, he recommended that the wastewater treatment facility work be completed under a single contract to save on bidding and design costs. We could look at adding pump station work into the contract as well to reduce the mobilization costs. But he felt that separating the work at the plant and the work in the collection system might result in a wider array of contractors that would bid on the work. The secondary clarifier mechanisms design that we had going on during this bond project is 95% complete. So we can pause on that until, or if we decide to do the dewatering equipment and prepare the design work for that. We would need to do a contract amendment to include the design for the dewatering units and the pump stations if we were to stay with Wright Pierce. Another consideration that goes along with this would be when the town would have voter authorization to issue a bond for the project capital costs. If we were to wait for bond authorization until the June town meeting before we proceed with the design and equipment procurement phases, this will actually impact the schedule quite a bit. It'll actually push it back probably close to a year and a half. Can I have the next slide, please? So in looking at that, we kind of considered other options, one of which was to maybe use the reserve funds to pay for the engineering design costs. If we were to do this, we could actually begin the design work in the first quarter of 2021. Another benefit that would go along with using the reserve funds to take care of the design engineering would be that these projects would all be shovel ready. In the event that we do have any federal stimulus money that becomes available in the near future. If the town uses the state revolving loan funds to pay for the engineering design costs, we would not be able to move ahead with the design work until after the town meeting and the authorization to issue the bond. If this becomes a case, again, the entire project phase timeline is pushed back at least one full year. And this is due to some timing, because some of this work needs to be completed in certain seasons for us to continue operating and being able to meet permit. Could I have the next slide, please? So this is kind of just a table that summarizes, the project phases, the durations of each. So currently right now, the secondary clarifier mechanisms, they're in progress. They're almost complete. The equipment lead time on this, once we decide to do this, is going to be 6 months from the time of the shop drawings. And construction will take approximately 6 months as well. We would have to complete the clarifier work in between the months of October and March during our low flow periods so that we can continue to maintain our permit requirements. The dewatering equipment, which would be the presses, design is going to be 6 to 9 months. Equipment lead time, 6 to 7 months after the approved shop drawings. Construction will be 6 to 9 months. You know, we would probably typically try to complete that between October and March as well. If we got one press online, we can push the completion of the second press back a little bit further because it would be redundant. As far as the pump stations go, it's going to be a 6-month design period for all of those. There's going to be a standby generator lead time of 4 to 6 months and a pump lead time of 3 to 4 months. Construction period would be about 6 to 8 months for all 3 pump stations. And again, we would probably try to complete this in the fall to spring, so an October to April timeline. Again, while flows are low, and also we have to consider the summer traffic. Can I have the next slide? So this kind of breaks it down by quarter. So in the fourth quarter of this year, you know, we could complete the design work for the clarifier mechanisms and put out a request for proposal for design services for the remaining projects. In the first quarter of 2021, we could award a bid for the engineering service and secure a contract, and we could begin the design work for the dewatering equipment and the pump stations. The third quarter of 2021, we could finish the design work for dewatering equipment and the pump stations and apply for SRF funding. We could bid the clarifier rehabilitation and the dewatering equipment upgrade as one project and bid the pump stations as a separate project. In quarter 4 of 2021, we could establish a contract with a low bidder for the clarifier rehabilitation and dewatering upgrade and pump station replacement. So this is where the 6 to 7 month lead time on the equipment procurement begins. So we would not have that until probably the third quarter of 2022. So this is when the construction would begin on the clarifier rehabilitation, the dewatering equipment upgrade, and the pump station replacement, and likely start in September. We would complete construction on the clarifier rehabilitation and dewatering upgrade in the second quarter of 2023. And then the third quarter of 2023, we'd finish construction on the 3 pump stations. If you look at the breakdown below, basically from the first quarter of 2021 to 2022, we would be using the $300,000 in reserve funds to pay for that design work. And then just about the first quarter of 2022 is when we'd probably enter into starting to spend the bond money, the $4.7 million from the state revolving fund. Can I have the last slide? So there's some funding impacts that we need to consider. So the town's current sewer ordinance divides sewer bond payments between the town general fund and the wastewater enterprise fund. The town tax base is responsible for 60% of the bond payment, while the wastewater fees pick up 40%. So to give you an idea of some financial reference, so for $1 million in bond funds over 20 years, the impact, the sewer rate would be $11.38 or 2.43%. The municipal tax rate by 2 cents or 6%. So
0.6%.
I'm sorry, 0.6%. If it were to use a whole $5 million in bond funds over 20 years, the impact to the sewer rate would be $47.98 or 10.26%. And the municipal tax rate would be 9 cents or 1%.
Chris, this is excellent, and I really like the way you set the timeline up for us to visualize this going forward. My question is, and please forgive me if we've already talked, and I know we've talked about this, I just can't remember, but I believe we had set aside $1 million, or there was $1 million set aside in the fund to go to the project. Is that accounted for in this, or are we already accounted for that?
No, so, you know, and looking at this, if we were going to be aggressive and kind of take on all of these projects, rather than using that $1 million in reserve funds to pay for the two presses, or I'm sorry, one press and one clarifier, to save on bidding and design costs, we would prefer to use $300,000 of that reserve money to pay for the design engineering and then bond the cost for the actual projects.
So we still have 650 left.
So that would leave us with about $700,000 left.
So one thing we discussed is certainly if we use that $1 million in reserves, that would, deplete our reserve funds for wastewater. And if we're going out for a bond of this magnitude, the thought is that we could leave some of those reserve funds there because that's kind of our safety net in case we have a line issue in the future.
I'm good with that.
I get it.
There's a lot more here to be done than I think we first realized.
And so I just also want to clarify in Chris's presentation, because he's using the term dewatering equipment. So this $5 million would take care of both of our clarifiers, both of our filter presses, and 3 pump stations.
$5 million will do all of that, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, this is.
I know that it's a moving target, but.
Yes, it's our best guesstimate for right now, based on recent projects that Wright Pierce has seen. Again, it depends on the contractor. It depends on, equipment availability. It depends on, the contractors we have bidding on it and how much capacity they have to complete the projects. So there's a lot of variables there, and it's hard to nail down all of those. But for now, this is our best guesstimate, and this would be a fluid schedule. So this would be a schedule in which we don't have any large surprises or hiccups.
So don't you think we should get the bond approved before we spend the $300,000? So that would mean we'd want a town meeting before June, correct?
I think what he recommended was that we authorize the $300,000 so we can start the design work. The design work needs to be done regardless of what we do. So it's not wasted money.
I agree with Mike. We have to do this.
I do too, but.
Yeah, it's not optional.
This is a question that, I think that we should have an earlier town meeting to acquire the bond, to make sure we have the bond, and then spend the $300,000. And Chris, you said that we'd have to do that before June to go ahead to get the bond, so we're not pushed back a year. Is that what you said? Is that what I understood?
Well, no, basically we would have to have authorization now. So if we wanted to move ahead and start the design work in January, we would have to have authorization right away.
Okay.
So I think that you're both of you on the board are right in that we certainly could spend the design and engineering money through the reserve funds now and do a June vote, because we don't really need the bond money right now. So we could do the engineering. The engineering will still work if it's a year or 2 years, but it's cleaner if you have a bond authorization and everybody's on the same page, and we know that the engineering money we're spending money on is going to result in projects.
Right.
So either path is okay with us.
Okay.
But if we don't spend the money now, we're just delaying the inevitable.
Well, I don't think that what I'm saying is I don't think that we can go ahead and have another town meeting before June and go ahead and get this all wrapped up and approved and still spend the $300,000 in the same length of time. I mean, to get everything rolling. Or do you not want to have a special town meeting to make sure that we do have the funds to move forward after the $300,000? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, the way I look at it is that we got to do the design anyway, regardless of when we do the projects, the spending for the project. So the more we know about the design, the more we're going to know about the project. And then it may affect how much we need on the bond.
Okay.
That's all I'm
That's
saying.
fine. That's a question I had to ask.
Yeah. No, I agree, Alan. I'm just saying that the more we know, if you listen to what Chris said, it's a situation where we don't know what inflation is, we don't know what the availability of engineers are, we don't know what the availability of manufacturing. So we've got all of this stuff that we don't know, but the more we know ahead of time on design and engineering part of it, the more we can tap dance if we have to. That's, I don't mean that in a
Okay.
bad sense.
Yeah.
I don't, you
I
know,
know what you mean. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think what Mike's saying is, if we have the design, we may not have it all in hand, but if we've expended the money, we'll have a much better idea of what the actual bond number will be.
exactly. That's my feeling anyway.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
also.
I agree with you, Mike.
You're going to have, I think, money coming from the federal government for infrastructure in the future. And whether or not it's something we can tap into, we don't know. But if we've got the plan already completed, we can be a player if that opportunity comes up.
Okay.
Good question, Alan. Good question. Yeah.
Do you need any action from us, Lori, on this tonight?
Well, if you're all about moving forward, then it would be appropriate for you to authorize us to use the reserve funds for engineering design up to $300,000.
So moved.
Oh,
I
second.
so moved. Okay.
I have a first and a second. Any more discussion? I'll take a roll call. Pat,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan says aye, motion carries. Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you, Chris. That was a very, very good presentation.
Very good.
I really like the way you laid that out.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 11, consider proposed changes at Parsons Field to accommodate softball diamond and ice rink.
So we're bringing forward Carol Cook now.
Is Mike staying with us as well?
Mike is always welcome in our meetings. Mike might have to do some of the work, so maybe we should hear.
All right, are you ready?
I am. We don't see you, Carol, but
Well, that's okay. I don't know what to do about that. I didn't get the option to use what the host has asked you to start your video.
Click
Something
that.
new and different. There we go.
There you
Hey,
are.
Carol.
Hi, how are you this evening?
Good, Carol.
Thank you.
You.
Good, thanks. So last year, I'm sure you all remember that we had the new ice rink and we put it in front of the rec building. And when we put it there with the idea that that was let's see how it goes, and that's probably not its more permanent location. So then this year, we've been talking a lot about changing some things around on the field, on Parsons Field. And as a result of that, we've come up with the plan that you had in your packets, which basically is that we'd like to put the ice rink in what is essentially left field and the foul territory, if you will. And then put a safety net there also to protect the playground. And then probably in the spring, move the ball diamond away from that corner. So we did get an estimate from Anchor Fence to find out how much it would cost us to move the backstop, and it was estimated at $4,550. That should be covered by a private donation at this point in time. So what we're basically just informing you, hoping that you like the idea of putting the ice rink off to the side there, making sure that we still can get by it to plow and all of those neat things, because we don't want to have a repeat of the trouble we had at the beginning with the flooding of the rec facility back in that November storm that we had. But anyway, so we've accounted for all that. We want to put the ice rink in that area where you see it in the picture.
Well, I think that's a real good move, especially the softball field. I think that's a good spot for it.
I'm with you there, Alan. I'm tired of looking into the sun.
There you go.
I don't know what I'm gonna blame on anything else though when I don't hit the ball.
Oh, there's always some excuse.
That's
That's
right.
right. We've come up with something else.
Well, I'm all for it.
Yeah, me
So,
too.
yeah, we don't really need a vote from the board, but because it's a big change on the field, we wanted to discuss it with you and make sure we were all on the same page.
How about you, Pat?
Yeah, I like that.
You gonna come down and play softball with us next summer, Pat?
Yeah, now that it's sun won't be in my eyes,
There you go.
that's a big factor.
Well, thank you, Carol.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. You'll be busy.
You'll be happy to know, Alan, I texted some of the guys that played softball with us this summer, and they were very happy to hear about this.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. Great.
All right, so we're going to say goodbye to Mike now, but we are bringing Werner back. For the next item.
For 12, okay. Consider climate change goals.
So you will remember a few meetings ago that we had Karina and Kennebunkport Climate Initiative here, and we did a presentation on climate change and impacts to Kennebunkport. And the board said that, you know, they were interested in taking action to kind of move forward some climate change goals. And Mike Weston actually, you know, took down some action items he thought that we could take and sent those to me, and I forwarded those to the rest of the board. But what I was trying to do in looking at goals is look at some of the goals that have been identified on our regional basis, and look at ones that I thought were reasonable for us to start as a platform and foundation to cover a variety of areas, and how we might engage our committees and staff so that we can move forward in that direction. You know, some of that is based on feedback I've heard from the board. So you'll notice that there are goals and they're separated into categories, and that there are identified groups on the right page, the right hand of the sheet, to talk about who would really be moving that forward. And I didn't identify them as short-term or long-term, but I thought that these were all goals that would fit in our next, 5 to 10 year period. I did forward these as well to Corinna and the chairs of these committees, and let them know we would be discussing it tonight. So I'm not expecting that the board would necessarily adopt these at this point, but I wanted to present something for you to give us feedback on, to see if we're headed in the right direction, or you had a different thoughts in mind.
So is there anybody out in the audience that would like to talk about this? Do we have any hands raised at all or anything?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, just curious. I think this is a great idea. I mean, it's, you're figuring a 5 to 10 year period of time. Some things should be done sooner than later, right? Correct? And we just have to figure out which ones that we should start out doing, say today or whenever in the near future. Ed, does you want to add anything to that?
I do, and as I said at our other meeting, I'd like to see the town invest in some electric vehicles for the police department. And as soon as lobstering slows down a little, I'm going to do a little research on my own and maybe be able to present something to us either before budget or at some point, so we can see, because there's got to be municipalities in this country that are doing it. In fact, I know there are.
There are some things that we could do on a yearly basis through our budget process. Could be solar power on some of our buildings, things of that nature. Maybe we might be able to get some grant money. I'm really interested in moving forward with this.
We aren't going to solve the problem as one small municipality, but we certainly should do our part.
And Werner and I have been meeting with Corinna and KCT on the idea of a solar array farm, whether it be in Kennebunkport or whether it be in a more regional area, and kind of talking with our other 5 towns as part of our regional sustainability group. There are some opportunities presented by recent legislation for us to secure some savings, as well as provide green energy, and then use those savings to invest in other projects. In fact, Werner and I attended another presentation today about some other people who've taken advantage of that. And I didn't know if Werner, he talked to the Growth Planning Committee as well, I think, and some of these are in that category, and whether he has other thoughts on the goals.
Yeah, no, at this point, what we want to make sure is that, because, these goals are a bit more specific in terms of, the strategies and the assignments. And so what we'll want to make sure of, since growth planning is in the midst of is working on the comp plan update, is we want to make sure that the language, in the comp plan is supportive, of these, of all these particular goals. But I can tell you, we're seeing a lot of interest, in solar projects, and it's not just, small scale projects on people's homes. There's a lot of discussion about, these large scale solar farms. I've had conversations with a number of, companies that are working on behalf of property owners that are looking at, this as a possibility. So, we're going to see some of it here.
So, Laura, you were talking about maybe forming a par or having a partnership or something with other towns that maybe we might have a larger solar array versus a smaller solar array on our own.
Well, yeah, and one of the things is when you're building a solar array, certainly need community acceptance of that. But you also need to have land that's going to suit that outcome. And the price of the land or an available land lease. And so one of the things Werner and I have been discussing with Corinna is even if it is on a regional basis, and let's say it's in another community, but we're benefiting from it and we're part of a regional approach, I think that still works for us. We have been approached by one company to purchase into a new project in Rumford. And so certainly we could get a discount on our electricity costs by buying into that. But one of the things that Werner and I have discussed, and we've been measuring the pros and cons, and is whether or not the renewable energy credits and holding those are important to the town, or just buying into the project and understanding someone else will hold those credits is enough for us. And secondly, how important is the proximity of the project to us? So one of the things that, Tom Bradbury has talked to us about, in terms of the Conservation Trust solar project they did was, having that project there physical for people to see really has created other behavior changes, so that people are anxious to see how their building is doing, in terms of net metering and shutting the lights off, being more aware of how they are impacting energy rather than just, box that our power now through solar or wind, and we're doing our part, and you kind of shake your hands and say, so that's done. versus seeing something, the residents driving by something, saying, yeah, we are a community whose culture that is important to. And then that starts to impact other people's behaviors about how they can then include themselves in that.
I like that idea better. I really do, you know. Seeing is believing. So, yeah. Anybody else, any other comments?
I think when you look at the various areas that are going to be studied, it is very broad, and it will plant a lot of seeds and raise awareness in things that we need to be dealing with coming down the road. Looking back on this, somebody's going to say, that was really far-seeing on their part. So I think we should do this.
Yeah, I'd like to see us keep moving forward with this. Absolutely.
Right.
Mike, we can't hear you. You're muted.
The dog was barking, so.
Oh,
So, but we have a grand dog here to babysitting.
I thought I saw you walking the dog the other day.
Yeah.
It was a double take for me, by the way.
Yeah, double take for me too. But I was just going to say that I think it's important to, whatever we do, to get some wins that we can show early. Because I think, I think of what they did at the trust, and it was terrific, and it's an example and so forth. I think we can be the same, whatever it is.
yeah, pick that low hanging fruit.
Exactly. And then pound our chests, that we did it, and that kind of thing, and get other people to follow. It's my 2 cents, but this is great.
Yeah,
This is great.
it is. It's a beginning.
It is.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you like to, what's your next steps, Laura? What's your ideas? Do you want us to just think about this for a week or two and come back and talk about it at next meeting, or?
It's up to the board, but ultimately I would like you to establish goals so that we can communicate those goals to the committees and the departments, so that as people are undertaking things, they have direction from the board, and you kind of put the targets on the wall so we know what we're trying to hit.
So maybe at our next meeting, we might be able to talk about this some more, and the selectmen will be able to go ahead and look at this and think about what's most important to start the process with, which ones we want to do in the beginning, and maybe come to some conclusion on how we want to start this. What do you guys think?
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
It'll give us a couple of weeks to look this over and decide what we think, is important to all of us to start this off.
There's a
And where
role.
we can, and what we can afford. What's that, Pat?
If you look down through the items, there's a role that we have to play in order to keep the process moving forward.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's talk about at the next meeting. If that's okay with you guys.
And if you have any other feedback you think of, let me know.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. Okay, accept a $500 donation from the Girl Scout Troop 1804 to the Public Health Emergency Fund.
So move with great appreciation.
Absolutely. Second.
I have a first and a second. Pat?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alan says aye, motion carries. We also have another one, a $500 donation from Annabelle Wayman. And I think,
Right.
Pat, you might want to talk about this lady. this
Yes,
girl.
I would like to let everybody know that what a fine young woman she is, because I've known her since virtually the day she was born, and I've watched her develop. And this is not unusual in the way she does things with a greater good for the community. I mean, she's got her own sewing machine, and she's been designing her own clothes since she was quite a young girl. So this is a talent that she has brought forward and produced $500 for the town. And I just wanted everyone to know that this kind of volunteerism and initiative is great, and it's something that we can cherish and enjoy here in Kennebunkport going forward.
Well, she started off on a great foot, didn't she?
Yeah, boy, yeah, I tell you. Well, she used to come down with her older brother to help pick up the acorns in my yard, and she'd bring her little clay sand bucket that you use in the sand pile. She was probably 3.5, maybe 4 years. And I says, well, Annabelle, I'll pay you $1 for every bucket that you pick up.
I thought you were paying her $1 for every acorn she picked up.
No. For every bucket. The point is, she went over, she was taking acorns out of her brother's bucket. And put it in her bucket. The girl is thinking ahead, and that's a very young age. So anyway, everybody needs to know we've got talent here in town, and she is an example that we should be proud of.
Thanks, Pat. We're going to take a roll
And
call.
I
Go ahead.
brought Carol forward because this donation is to the Parks and Rec Department, I believe.
Okay.
Is that correct, Carol?
That is correct, and I would just add to what Pat said in terms of, she is indeed a fine young woman. She is only in middle school. She was, in fact, part of our outdoor adventure program this summer and is part of the ongoing outdoor adventure program that we're running now at the middle school. So it's really quite spectacular that she not only has donated this $500 to us for this, but she's also donated, my understanding is, close to $9,000 to a variety of entities in order to support them with her mask making abilities.
Wow, that's great.
And I think Carol has some other news to share with you.
Should I do that right now?
I don't know whether I want to hear it.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
Can you mute Carol?
no, you do want to hear it, I guess. I don't know. So
Go for
the
it.
news on the street is that I'm going to be retiring as of December 23rd, 2020. So it took a pandemic to get me out, but I'm going to go take care of my grandson.
Did you say, I thought you wanted, maybe I'm hard of hearing, but I thought you said 2025. What'd you say?
I said, yeah, no, I said 2020.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah. But I'm not leaving town or anything like that. And I, have already given a lot of thought to which projects I'd still like to be involved in. And
Well, you should be able to play softball now.
I won't have any excuses. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a great time working with you, for sure.
Well, I just had my 39th anniversary with you guys, so.
That's almost as much as, I'm almost that age myself.
There you go.
Yeah,
Okay,
Carol, I
we have
think
to
I was
take a-
about 12 years old in Parks and Rec when you showed up, and I won't tell anybody how old I am now.
All right. Well, I just told you I was here 39 years, so.
Yeah,
Just add 30 years to it and you got it.
yeah.
I gotta take a motion on this. Pat,
Aye. What are we voting on?
what on the $500, they don't,
Oh, I thought you
I
were
heard it
voting
first.
All right.
accept
I heard it
Carol's
first and a second.
resignation. I was going to vote no.
I did hear first and a second, did I not?
Yes,
You
you did.
did.
Accept it? Okay. Pat,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan says aye, motion carries, and thank you very much for that $500 donation.
That's incredible.
It is. Good news and bad news. Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Other business, A, outside seating for Hurricanes and Allison's in Dock Square parking lot. I think it's just gonna be
Hurricane.
Hurricanes, correct?
Right.
I think Allison's changed their mind.
Yeah, so I sent you out today what Taylor Benatti came up with for hurricanes. And basically, it's a smaller space than he's using currently. But he would like to still have a blocked off space behind the ramp and deck behind his building. And it would include a propane fire table and a bench, maybe some propane heaters and a couple of tables. He's thinking an area where people could maybe get drinks and snacks, you know, if they're dressed appropriately for the weather. This would go, is request until the middle of December 13th. Because I told them at that point, I'd be concerned about plowing and snow issues. So he would need to make sure his liquor license is appropriate, and we have barriers up and all the other things that we've had this summer. Allison's was contemplating a similar move, but they let me know today that they have decided against that. But they thanked the board for all their support and the opportunity.
Lori, are we gonna have Jay or somebody from the fire department go down and take a look at those heaters once they're installed, just to make sure that they're up to safety? That's my only concern in this.
Yeah, and we can bring Jay up if you want. We did go down and that was a cue for David to bring him up. And so we did go down and look at the area and kind of talk about that. And I did discuss with both of them the difference between a wood fire pit and a propane fire table or a propane heater. And certainly we have a lot more concerns about wood, but there are distance and things. Jay, do you have anything to add?
Not really, other than, you know, I definitely would go down there and take a peek at them, but as long as they're using a UL approved appliance and they're spaced well enough. The table ones that they're talking about aren't as big a deal because you're less likely to have somebody knock that over than if you had maybe those tall warmers like you see all over the place on patios that could get knocked over. But they're usually, these table ones aren't really a problem.
I think Ryan's has one in Lower Village, and seems you always see people out. In fact, I've sat in front of it before. It's a nice little setup, and it does kind of warm you up.
You want to vote for this?
I move we approve it so long as it meets the conditions of the fire department.
Second.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
Pat seconds it. Okay, we'll do a roll call. Pat?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alan says aye. Motion carries. Thanks, Chief.
Okay.
Okay, other business. Ed?
I just would remind people that we're less than 2 weeks away from the election, and, you know, get out and vote. If you've requested an absentee ballot, make sure you turn it in. And if you decide to go to the polls, make sure you wear a mask.
That it?
That's it.
Pat, you have anything?
Thank you.
Mike?
I just want to mention that Bradbury's, the post office at Bradbury was closing at the end of December, and that Lori and the selectmen have made a decision to relocate those boxes to Fireman's Park, and we're going to have the boxes there with lighting and so forth. So it was a good win. I mean, a good solution for the box holders of Cape Porpoise.
I agree, absolutely agree with you, Mike. Absolutely.
And I also like to thank Dick Smith and his crew, because we looked at Atlantic Hall as a situation, and while they were all in favor of it, it was just not practical with the aesthetics down there and with the post office. So the way it was going to be set up. So I think Lori came up with a fireman's park recommendation, and when we looked at it, it's going to be great.
Yeah, 100% with you.
Yeah, and people are already, and people I've talked to anyway are already enthused about it. So it's great. Yeah.
Lori, do you have anything? Cut it out. Really? Wow. Okay.
I moved the warrants.
Second.
First and second. Ed,
Aye.
Pat,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan says aye. Motion
Move to
carries.
adjourn.
Second.
So
First-
I just,
What?
can I just make sure I remind you that we're gonna have our joint meeting next Monday, this coming Monday at 5 with Kennebunk? And I might have to ask you to have an impromptu meeting to have another treasurer's warrant, because we have some bills associated with our COVID grant that have to be paid before October 31st for us to get reimbursement, and they didn't all come in for this warrant.
So when do you think you might have the warrant?
Well, I'm thinking when I get the bills.
Okay.
Fair enough.
We'll be there, not a problem, no problem, not going anywhere.
Is that all you have? That's it. Okay. I'm gonna call a roll call. Ed,
Aye.
Pat,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan says aye. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Have a good night.